Bad Batch.
Yes.
This season has been a good batch of episodes.
See what you did there.
Thank you. Thank you very
Um,
much.
it was, I would say, what we expected to happen this episode.
Yeah.
It kind of answered stuff that we'd already figured out. I feel it kind of just actually said what we've kind of been figuring out and kind of how we've been trying to word our thoughts. They kind of just straight up said, "Yeah, this is why Omega is important," which I think is good. It helps clear up and lays the facts out, so people can't be like questionable of stuff, especially because we know they are trying to fix something.
Yeah.
I kind of want to say it felt a little bit fillery,
I'll be
but
honest, I'm a
not.
bit back and forth on that. I get exactly why you think that.
Mm,
I think it feels less fillery than the other one that we said felt like a filler episode.
yeah,
It all made sense as to why it had to happen. The only question would be is did we need to see it? And I think they provided enough action for it to make sense for us to see it. And also the fact that I forget his name, the Admiral or the ex-Admiral.
oh, it's gone
You
out of
know what I
my head
mean?
now. Yeah, the prisoner.
It also explained it, like I think we almost needed to see it for the reveal of him going,
Hmm.
no one knows where Tantis is, but I think I have a way around that. If
Yeah,
it was just going to be a case of, oh, we need to find out the location, they probably could have just not bothered with it.
mm,
But the extra bit of action, getting feedback in the mix, and the, oh no, no one knows the location of Tantis is all quite relevant information.
yeah,
And I'm always more of a fan of show, don't tell. So don't just tell us that they went and broke into this prison and got the information.
yeah,
Let us see it.
yeah. And I think I do have to like try and remind myself that we obviously each week we're breaking these episodes down and we're trying to figure out what's actually going on. A lot of people might not have quite understood why Omega is important yet.
Yeah,
And knowing that Dave is fixing the infamous line of Palpatine returned, somehow, he obviously at certain points needs to just lay it out clearly so no
yeah.
one's then able to question it in the future. Um, so I think explaining that also allowed us to see Emery kind of wavering a little still, especially once
She's
Omega was
gonna come
there.
back to us.
Yeah, she's like clearly questioning. Oh, I think she obviously doesn't want anything to happen to Omega because
I don't know
she's,
if it's happened to any of them kids.
yeah, well, that's, so I think she's going to play a part in it somehow. Wouldn't surprise me if she frees them but dies for it.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, the whole prison break itself was very cool. I very much
Mm.
enjoyed that. I loved the bit where Crosshair was like, Wrecker, do you remember Plan 55? And he's like, oh yeah, Plan 55, I remember that one. On you. And it's like, you can just see, because obviously we know he's the dumber one. And it's
Yeah.
like, you just imagine him like scrolling through all the different plans in his head, and it
Well,
just takes time to get to 55.
I think it's also like they haven't been using them. So
Yeah,
I think
true.
I think part of him was like a kid leaving school. Oh, I've done my last biology exam and I'm going to go do finance. I can forget
Yeah, yeah.
that the nucleus is the brain of a cell.
Yeah.
And that was, and Rekka was just like, oh my god, I used to study so hard, but I can't remember what 55 is. Was that? Yeah, I know, I remember. He's probably
It,
done the wrong thing.
it's probably also, you got to think, some of the plans obviously will be on to do with certain members, and Crosshair's not been with them for so long. They're probably like, oh,
Yeah,
well, we haven't needed to do any of the Crosshair
exactly.
plans. But I thought that was
I
just very
also
funny.
I also like the idea that for all of their plans, Rekka's job is just run in there and shoot something.
Yeah, or tackle
That's my
something,
personal
or
head canon. Yeah.
it's like,
What I will say is
mm-hmm,
the pessimist that I am about
mm,
our character's ability to survive.
mm,
When Rekka was stuck on the top of the prison
Mm,
convoy, and they
mm.
were waiting for the job.
I
I'm
was like, oh
sat
my
there,
god,
and
it's
in my
tech
head, I'm
again.
like, in my head, I'm going, I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right like this. I know I've said Wreck is in danger. I don't want to be right like this. Not like this.
You saying it the past couple of weeks made that work. Same for me. I was like, Wrecker's not gonna be able to jump. And I was like, oh no, they're gonna do a fucking tech on us again.
We're just gonna slowly
No.
lose the crew.
And then yeah, he makes the jump just. I think they're playing with us, like they're teeing us up for something's gonna happen to Wrecker. And I'm not
I
ready
think
for
they're
that.
trying to. I think there's a little bit of a desensitization to dire situations, so that when a dire situation doesn't go our way, it hits harder.
Mm,
Speaking of hitting harder, Crosshair in this episode I found really interesting with the reveal of I didn't really want to go back to Tantis, but I
mm,
think I know a way we can get back. And it shows, I think, two main things about Crosshair.
mm-hmm.
He is nowhere near as selfish as he once was,
No,
because despite his feelings about going back to Tantis, he's like, no, we've got to go help Omega,
it's
which
just, yeah,
Crosshair in season one would not have felt that way.
no,
But also it shows how traumatized he is by
mm.
his experience on Tantis, that he did not want to mention that he knew a way to get there up until it was literally a life or death situation for Omega.
Yeah, I agree. We saw this him kind of. It's clearly he hid it because there's trauma there, and we were starting to understand that something had gone on. That like obviously that's where his handshakes were coming from. I also noticed in this episode his hand was shaking way more, and also especially when he was like talking about going back to Tantis, which is playing on that thing of like clearly he's got trauma from there, and it's like
Absolutely.
yeah, like you say, he's definitely grown because Crosshair in season one wouldn't have put Omega first,
Absolutely not.
but now it's the last resort of any possible way. Or not like there potentially could be other ways, but because there is now a time limit on it and there is a urgency to get to Tantis, he's willing to reveal that. I think there's definitely going to be something when they arrive back at Tantis, which is like some mental conflict Crosshair's going to have to go through. Whether him seeing Dr. Hemlock again triggers like some PTSD thing, or like he's gonna have some struggle at like a very key moment when he needs to not be because
Yeah,
of where
wouldn't
he
surprise me.
is. I think they're definitely leaning up to something like that happening.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I think you're probably spot on with that.
I still am not confident Omega's surviving this.
No, I'm really not.
Now
I
that
can see her sacrificing herself to get them kids out alive.
and that's why they then need to find someone. Well, no, actually, see, here's my right. I've got two theories. I think either she escapes and disappears into the wind because they figure out what's going on and they know that she has to like no matter what's going on in the world, she cannot come out of hiding because they understand like she understands that's a bigger consequence.
Oh, interesting.
Or it's a case of like because I'm trying to also think why would they need Grogu many years later? Because
For the high M count, I assumed.
which to blend with Omega's blood. So does it mean that they get a bunch of samples out of Omega to be using? So there's a very limited supply, and then they're trying to then replicate that in the future with Grogu, or maybe they find these other Force users. They can replicate it, but they can't. It doesn't work with Palpatine. They need something else. There's obviously something there, like, but I think you could be right in that she sacrifices herself to get all the clones and the kids out of Tantis. Maybe Hemlock, like she gets stuck with Hemlock, but it means everyone else can escape.
It's so interesting knowing that Project Necromancer ends up being a success.
That yeah,
Trying trying to work out how they're going to surprise us, but knowing they have to succeed at the same
Yeah,
time.
this is the thing. We know the end goal, like we know the end result. We know what happens. We've all unfortunately seen the sequels. And we know about Grogu and Mando and how he's linked to it. So it's like, but we don't know how it all joins together, and trying to figure that out like you say, has been very interesting, because we're essentially trying to play like chase with Dave here, because Dave knows it all.
Is? Do you know what it is? It's do you remember that concept film that Netflix did, where it was a bank heist, but there was like 6 parts, but they were all just from a different point of view?
No, I don't remember that.
They did. I don't think it was in English, which I think is why I didn't watch it. Not that I'm against foreign film; it just takes too much brain power. But basically, the whole idea was, I think there were 6 colors:
Right.
white, pink, blue, red, and it was the people taking part of the heist. It was like Mr. White, Mr. Red, Mrs. Pink, and the whole idea was you watched the entire bank robbery, the build up and the post bank robbery, but each episode was from a different person's point of view, and every single point of view gives you a different idea of what happened, and it's only by seeing all of it that you understand the full story. It's kind of like that with Project Necromancer. We know how it ends, we know parts of it, but it's only once all of this stuff is finished that we can actually see how it happened. Because right now, we're like, oh, surely they must get what they need from Omega because they need Grogu in the future. But actually, there's 25 years of time there. Like, if they're working on this round the clock for 25 years, they might find another way to replicate M-Count.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know if it's like something goes really wrong at the end of this and it kind of goes dark for a bit. And that's why we didn't hear anything about it in the original trilogy or got wind. Obviously, it's kind of it didn't exist when those films were made, but we'll overlook that. But yeah, then obviously the stuff that's happened in Mando, with like Moff Gideon doing his own clones and clearly not kind of sticking to what Project Necromancy should be, but maybe he discovered it and reignited it or brought it back. There's obviously, it goes dark and comes back up, and then it's filling those gaps. But I do think, like you say, when we get to the end of all this and we've had like the Mando film, it will all make sense. I do believe Dave will actually fix this issue that people have had, as wild of a sentence that is to say after all these years.
I don't think anyone's going to accept it as fixed who doesn't already accept it as fixed, if that makes sense. I think, although the line sounds silly, I think at this point it's already fixed.
Yes, I would agree.
They've shown us enough stuff to show that, like, oh yeah, the Empire was working on this, and guess what? Some random pilot 20 years after the fall of the Empire didn't know this top secret project was happening.
Yeah.
So what else is he going to say other than, yeah, Palpatine's back somehow? I don't fucking know. Like, it's...
Yeah, no.
You got to use context
I agree.
a bit, people.
I agree. I do think...
Yes, I do think he's going to flesh it out enough where it feels actually, like, decent writing rather than confusing.
I think... I agree with you. It's past the point now of like a general Star Wars fan being like, oh, okay, I can see how we got to that point. Like, there was a secret project called Necromancy where they were cloning Force-sensitive people. You can see how that would eventually lead to Palpatine making a clone of himself. For the more hardcore like lore fans, I think we are getting to that point now with Dave where he will flesh it out enough that we all feel a satisfied level of detail has been given to us to explain it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm very excited for the end of this season, but I'm going to be very sad for the end of this season.
That is, I think, completely fair.